All right, we've done the entire mid-range, and we're going to go to the treble section right now in the Equal Temperament by Marpurg. Now, at this point, once I have from the bottom of the temperament octave 2 full octaves tuned, I change my strategy. I do what is known as the mindless octaves method, and it involves the sostenuto pedal, but sometimes the piano doesn't have one, or it doesn't work very well as in this piano. So if that's the case, you can use the damper pedal as a substitute for it. But you would just use the damper pedal the same way you would use the sostenuto pedal. You would play your notes that you want first and then press the pedal. So it just holds like that and you don't get too much background noise. And what you do is you compare the double octave and then the octave fifth. And you get the same sound from each. Now, if you were to measure that afterwards electronically, what you would find out is that the double octave is still slightly wide and the octave fifth or 12th is slightly narrow. But to the ear, they apparently both sound like they're pretty much pure, but they're still slightly tempered. So this whole idea of pure 12ths, I find a little bit suspicious, because my 12ths so far don't sound very tempered at all. They are. And my double octaves are nice and pure too, but they are slightly wide. So that's what I want to continue on the way up, but the only check you really need to do is the double octave and the octave fifth. You can do, with all of this, you can do rapidly beating interval checks. But you really don't need them very much, just maybe as a final check to pick out something that didn't hold precisely or something like that. Because for the most part, if you get the double octave and the octave fifth to be equal, the rapidly beating interval check will work perfectly. So we'll move on to the next note, F sharp. See, there's just, in the octave fifth, there's a little bit of a sigh there. And I want both of them to sound happy. Now I'm going to detune this next one a little bit. See, it still sounds like a pretty good octave, but the octave fifth sounds not good at all. And that's the whole idea behind what I call as mindless octaves. Once you get into the practice of doing this, you don't really have to think about it very much. You just do it, and when you get a note that's really off like that, it'll wake you right up. Tuning. Now, if you really did tune the octave fifth pure, your double octave would be objectionably wide. Like that. just continue with that all the way to C7, and then you can continue with as far as you can hear, and you might be able to hear all the way up to F7. But at any point in there that it seems reasonable, you can just simply tune single octaves that sound good to your ear after that. Pretty much the way they say to do on the exam. Just whatever sounds good is really going to be good enough way up at the top. But I want you to hear before we close this out that the 17s sound perfect. So they almost really don't need to be checked with this method.